Once upon a time, in a land of mist-covered mountains and ancient forests, there lived two Zen monks named Kanto and Ryo. Kanto was an elder monk who had spent decades mastering the art of silent meditation and emotional detachment, while Ryo was a young disciple, brilliant but prone to overthinking, constantly analyzing the world through a lens of rigid judgment and intellectual pride. The two monks were on a long, arduous journey back to their monastery, traveling on foot across a rugged valley that had recently been devastated by severe torrential rains. The dirt roads had completely dissolved into thick, black mud, and the local rivers were swollen to dangerous heights, making every single step a grueling, exhausting battle against the elements. Banja. After hours of silent marching, they finally arrived at a narrow river crossing. The wooden bridge had been swept away by the raging current, and the water was swirling furiously around jagged rocks. Standing at the water's edge, visibly trembling with fear, was a young, beautifully dressed woman. She wore delicate silk robes that were bound to be ruined by the muddy waters, and she was crying out in frustration, unable to cross the dangerous river to reach her family on the other side. The Zen code was incredibly strict. Monks were forbidden from touching women or allowing physical desires to disrupt their path of ultimate purity. Ryo looked at the woman, instantly tightened his jaw, and mentally criticized her for wearing such impractical clothes. He prepared to ignore her completely and cross the river alone. But Kanto didn't hesitate for a single second. He walked straight over to the weeping woman, knelt down, and said, "Climb onto my back." The woman looked shocked, but quickly wrapped her arms around the old monk's neck. Kanto lifted her heavy weight, stepped firmly into the treacherous, swirling current, and carefully navigated the slippery riverbed. Ryo watched in absolute horror, his mind exploding with anger and disbelief at his master's blatant violation of their sacred rules. When they reached the opposite shore, Kanto gently set the woman down on dry ground. She bowed deeply in gratitude, turned, and walked away. Kanto simply wiped the mud from his sandals, adjusted his simple robes, and continued marching along the dirt path in absolute, peaceful silence. Bender Ryo, however, was trapped in a raging mental prison. He marched behind Kanto, his fists clenched, his blood boiling with judgment. How could he do that? Ryo thought furiously. He touched her, he carried her, he broke our most sacred vows. For 3 agonizing hours, Ryo didn't say a single word, but inside his head, he was replaying the scene over and over again, allowing the flames of anger and self-righteousness to rot his inner peace. The weight of his thoughts grew heavier than the mud on his boots. Finally, unable to contain his exploding rage any longer, Ryo ran forward and blocked Kanto's path. "How could you do that?" Ryo yelled, his voice echoing through the forest. "We are Zen monks. We are strictly forbidden from touching women. You carried that woman on your back. Have you forgotten our sacred vows? Have you lost your mind?" Kanto stopped walking. He looked at the sweating, trembling young monk with deep, compassionate eyes and let out a gentle sigh. "Being my brother," Kanto replied softly. "I set that woman down by the riverbank 3 hours ago. Why are you still carrying her in your mind?" The story of Kanto teaches us that the heaviest burdens we carry are not today's physical realities, but yesterday's emotional ghosts. We waste precious energy dragging past betrayals, rejections, and grievances into our present moments, letting people who hurt us destroy our focus and rot our potential. The past is just a river crossing that has already occurred, Stop replaying your failures and humiliations. When a moment is gone, let it die completely. Shake off the mental baggage, drop the weight of your resentment, and step into your future with absolute freedom. You cannot build a powerful empire today if your hands are still full of yesterday's garbage.